So I'm going to do a quick video. At least I'm going to try to make it a quick video. I know my videos tend to ramble on too much, but I want to address something that a lot of people brought up in the comments and has been one very contentious point of debate as far as the whole Star Wars Last Jedi thing. And I'm hoping to just put this whole Star Wars Last Jedi thing to rest because, yeah, it's hurting enough as it is. And I'm going to do something a little differently than usual. I actually found a video that I think fairly well articulates the argumentation, and I'm going to kind of respond to the points as this YouTuber put. His YouTube handle is Sheev Talks. I'm going to put a link to the video in the description bar below so you can check it out, see it in its proper context, make sure I'm not like trying to butcher what he's saying or anything. But you'll see exactly what's going on here. So with all that out of the way, today we're going to talk about why it's okay that Rey's a Mary Sue because everybody else in the original Star Wars films is a Mary Sue as well, which is a load of crap. But we'll get into that in a moment. Okay, so first of all, right off the bat, let me say thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hey, if you do like what I'm doing, you want to see me do more of it, consider supporting me on Patreon so that I can put a little bit more resource into the production of these videos. I'd like to do it more often if I possibly can. With all that being said, let's get right into Sheev Talks' video on that Rey is not a Mary Sue.
In the past couple of years, I've heard a lot of complaints about Star Wars The Force Awakens. People have called it an atrocity, the worst movie of all time, even worthless. And I'll admit, it's a little insulting considering how great the film is, and it almost adds insult to injury considering how much everybody loved it the first couple of weeks after its release. But I think what might be the stupidest complaint that's ever been uttered by anyone ever is that Rey is a Mary Sue.
All right, so Sheev Talk is getting right to the point here. I actually kind of like the way that he put this video together because he's not wasting any time. And so let's see, why is it that Rey is not a Mary Sue?
Okay, so first I want to address that, of course, to some degree, Rey is a Mary Sue, because she does things that she really shouldn't be able to, but what you have to realize is that every main protagonist in the Star Wars franchise is a Mary Sue. It's this little thing called plot armor.
So, the name of this video is Rey is not a Mary Sue, but the first thing you say is you concede that she is a Mary Sue, which I'll give you credit for. That's a bold statement. And your argument is not that she is not a Mary Sue, but rather everybody is. And your first point is the idea of plot armor. That is the idea that characters in a fictional world are simply not killed because they are main characters. And this is not exclusive to Star Wars. This happens in pretty much every significant film and television series that's ever existed. And that's why it's generally so shocking if you actually kill a main character. However, I would say this plot armor does not a Mary Sue make. Plot armor is a trope in film and television, and it's not one I'm a big fan of, but there's a difference between being a Mary Sue and plot armor, but we'll get into that as you elaborate a little bit.
There's absolutely no way that Luke Skywalker, an inexperienced farmer who literally found out what the Force was a couple of hours ago, would have been able to land a shot blowing up the Death Star. But obviously it had to happen, because otherwise the Empire would have blown up Yavin 4 along with all of the Rebel base. Then the Imperial fleet would have killed Luke, Han, Wedge Antilles, and Kian Farlander, the only ones left in the rebellion.
Now, Sheev might be correct if his description of Luke Skywalker was at all accurate, an inexperienced farm boy. However, and this is the core of the problem here, I think, for a lot of people that are trying to make this objection, is that they're not paying attention to the original films. Either they weren't fans of the original films, they didn't see it as much as they've seen the newer films, whatever. But they're ignoring what is, in the original films, far superior writing than in the newer films. And you see, there's a couple of things that are used in writing quite frequently, and that's things like foreshadowing. Now, unfortunately, foreshadowing these days is like this blatant, over-the-top thing where you have to say something like, oh, geez, you're going to get killed if you try that, and then they try it and they get killed. That's considered foreshadowing in the modern world. But here in the original Star Wars, we had some very good writing bits throughout the film to plant the seed for exactly what was going on, starting with Luke's aunt and uncle having discussion over blue milk.
Oh, and he can't stay here forever. Most of his friends have gone. It means so much to him.
I'll make it up to him next year. I promise.
Luke's just not a farmer, Owen. He has too much of his father in him.
That's what I'm afraid of.
So what the writing here intentionally and knowingly sets up is, number one, Luke is not a farmer. Number two, Luke is a lot like his father, which is something that obviously his uncle is concerned with. But we don't know what is his father exactly until, oh, what do you know? Just a couple of scenes later, we get another step in Luke's journey.
I wish I'd known him.
He was the best star pilot in the galaxy, and a cunning warrior. I understand you've become quite a good pilot yourself.
So now we've established that Luke is like his father. His father is the best star pilot in the galaxy, or was, and Luke has become quite a pilot. Now, we also see earlier in the film that Luke is playing with a model of a ship that, you know, in extra film sources you can find out is the type of ship that Luke happens to fly, and it happens to fly very similar to an X-Wing. But since that's not in the film, we'll leave that out. We don't even need that, because now we fast forward towards the end of the film, and they're talking about the ridiculous difficulty of taking down the Death Star. The very shot that John Campea, Sheev, and many others say, oh, it was obvious that Luke was a Mary Sue because he shouldn't have been able to make that shot.
The target area is only 2 meters wide. It's a small thermal exhaust port right below the main port. The shaft leads directly to the reactor system. A precise hit will start a chain reaction which should destroy the station. Only a precise hit will set up a chain reaction. The shaft is ray shielded, so you'll have to use proton torpedoes.
That's impossible, even for a computer.
But it's not impossible. I used to bullseye womp rats in my T-16 back home. They're not much bigger than 2 meters.
So now we've established not only is Luke like his father, Luke is a great pilot, but when they describe the actual target, the other pilots are all saying, that can't be done. And Luke's like, I do this all the time. Are you kidding? What are you talking about? And not only that, if you think about it, if Luke was shooting womp rats from his T-16, and a T-16 is at all similar to an X-Wing, that means not only is he hitting a 2-meter target, he's hitting a 2-meter moving target.
You sure you can handle this ship?
Sir, Luke is the best bush pilot in the Outer Rim territories.
You'll do all right.
Thank you, sir. I'll try. I gotta get aboard.
So if you still think that Luke Skywalker is a Mary Sue, well, let me point this out to you. The piloting is what I've been focusing on here, because that's the number one thing from the first film. That's the only thing Luke did that required a significant amount of skill. And the entire movie sets up that Luke does have the skill set necessary, that he is the son of one of the best pilots ever, that Luke is a lot like his father, that Luke has practiced and become an expert pilot himself, that Luke has actually practiced targeting targets that happen to be about the same size as the exhaust port that they're targeting in this mission, and that Luke is the best bush pilot in the Outer Rim territories, which impresses his commanding officer. So what Luke does is not in any way, shape, or form to be unexpected. He simply follows his natural skill set. Now, notice in this film, Luke does not have extraordinary hand-to-hand combat skills. He's not an expert engineer. And in fact, he got over-the-top excited when he managed to take down 2 TIE fighters in a turret. That's something he hadn't done before, and he obviously wasn't that good at it. So it's not like Luke was this insane Mary Sue-esque character, because he didn't have a lot of skills.
Or I don't even think I have to tell you how astronomically impossible it was that Anakin Skywalker, a 9-year-old boy, was able to blow up the Trade Federation blockade when all of the skilled adult Naboo pilots couldn't even do it.
Now, I'm not going to bother with the clips for this one. I think that it's pretty straightforward, and most of you, if you've seen The Phantom Menace, will probably already know what I'm about to say. Number one, they do make it very clear very early on that Anakin, like Luke, is a gifted pilot, that he is capable of pod racing, which is something that most humans are not capable of. And that's when we learn that one of the benefits of being strong in the Force is enhanced reflexes, which is why someone might choose a profession like piloting if they don't know that they're Force sensitive and they become a Jedi. That actually makes sense. And that's one of the reasons why, like, if Rey simply was a gifted pilot, that would have made sense. But they had to give Rey every skill set in the book. Not only that, but, you know, he talks about, oh, well, you have these trained Nabooian pilots, and yet Anakin flies inside this ship and blows it up from the inside. Okay, well, first of all, like I said, pod racing is extremely difficult, requires a lot of tight maneuvers, and we finally got to see what Beggar's Canyon looks like, which is what Luke was piloting in the first film. But besides that, they also mention the fact earlier on in this film that all those Nabooian military are volunteers, and that they couldn't hold their own against some simple battle droids because of the fact that they don't have battle-hardened troops. So, no, just because you have a trained Air Force, well, if you have a trained Air Force that has never seen real combat, then some kid who has flown a pod in Beggar's Canyon at 700 miles an hour, he's going to be able to do a whole lot better. And he does. Now, I'm not defending The Phantom Menace. I think it was a crap movie. But I think that, at least as far as calling Anakin a Mary Sue, honestly, not really. He shows extraordinary piloting skills, and it's not until after years and years of training that we see him using the Force. Just like in the original trilogy, we don't see Luke using the Force in any kind of significant way until after he trains with Yoda.
Or how about the fact that Han Solo was able to land the Falcon on Starkiller Base at light speed? Like, the actual velocity at which light moves. But nobody questions it because he's Han Solo. I'm just saying that Rey should be held to the exact same standard.
The ironic thing about this is that, well, you kind of answered your own question. They don't question it because he's Han Solo. Yes, because they spent 3 films establishing who Han Solo is and what his skill sets are. Now, had they sent Han Solo to negotiate a trade deal, then yeah, that would be stupid. Had they put Solo in command of the, a big cruiser or something like that, that would be stupid. But Han Solo pulling crazy maneuvers in the Millennium Falcon, he's been doing that apparently for quite some time, and I'm sure we're going to get more of that in the upcoming Han Solo film. So basically what you're saying is that, well, this character has an established skill set that he's utilizing, and that's not fair because Rey just gets to use all the skills. And that's where I have a problem. It's not that Rey is skilled in any particular thing. It's that she is skilled at everything.